I'm Julie Weiss, and I am probably like a lot of you folks in that I work for a public agency. I've been doing green purchasing for quite some time, but probably like a lot of you, I don't get to spend full time doing it. I really don't get to spend 20% of my time doing it, and with our program, I could be spending probably 50 to 60% of my time to do it the way I really want to do it. I've done a lot of learning over the years, and I was asked by Alicia just to tell you a little bit about our program, just to give you a little bit of a slice about what we're doing in Palo Alto and what we are finding to be the most profitable in terms of what we spend our time on, what we get back in terms of performance, what we save in terms of money, and how it's also helping us to move our own other programs along. So as background, we've actually been doing green purchasing for, probably 12, 13 some odd years, something like that. But interestingly enough, even though we were doing all this green purchasing, we had a heck of a time trying to get a policy through our city, but we were able to do that eventually through the adoption of our city's climate protection plan, and that happened in 2007. And so green purchasing is one chapter in our climate protection plan, because a lot of looking at green purchasing when you're reducing energy use, when you're reducing water use, when you're just reducing consumption of anything, you are reducing energy use and therefore greenhouse gas emissions. So that's how we got it through our city. Because I'm housed in the water quality program, I work at the regional water quality control plant, so we work on stormwater and wastewater programs and projects for a service area, not just Palo Alto, but a 6-community service area. A lot of what you're going to be seeing that we've worked on is kind of through that water quality lens, because then I can kind of kill two birds with one stone. It's like, oh, it's a water quality thing and it's a green purchasing thing. So we have been working really hard to be efficient with our time and how we cover all of our program requirements. And in fact, I think that a smart way to go about looking at green purchasing is how you can use that to be helping all of your policy and your regulatory requirements that you have. Some of you most likely work for agencies that have zero waste mandates or have water quality programs that you may not even know about. You have stormwater requirements or wastewater pollution reduction requirements. And a lot of what you can do, some of you were asking, well, how do you get past that low bid thing? Well, in our city, we're saying, look, this is a regulatory requirement. In the case of pesticides, as you'll see some of our slides have to do with pesticide reduction, this isn't a pretty please thing. We have to reduce our pesticide use. We have to report on it. And we are able to use that to help push our green purchasing through. They help each other. So what have we done? You've heard a little bit about antibacterial soaps, and this was actually a really easy thing for us to do. We were able to take care of this in a week, miraculously. We just contacted everyone in the city who purchased soaps, and everyone agreed. When they learned what I think you guys all touched on, is that antibacterial soaps, they contain a product called triclosan or triclosan, it's actually technically a registered pesticide. It's an antimicrobial. That's why it needs to have information on the bottom of every jar or every bottle about what the active ingredient is. That's a classic pesticide labeling format. And the thing about antibacterial soaps is they don't even really work that well. You actually need to have a certain amount of contact time on your hands for it to kill any of the microbes, about a little over 20 to 30 seconds. But if you think about when you go to wash your hands, what do people usually do? And then they leave, right? And so the contact time isn't going to really work. And as Alicia had said, the American Medical Association said, just use good old-fashioned soap and water. It's actually rubbing your hands back and forth that destroys that cell membrane of the bacteria, and that's what kills it. So we switched this out, and again, I work at the wastewater treatment plant. That's where my office is, and when we first brought this up with folks there, they were a little bit nervous about it, but we just switched to regular soap and water, and then the alcohol-based hand sanitizers, and it has been not a problem at all. Another thing that we have done, and this is a value for your money thing, is we've changed our requirements for structural pest control. So that our structural pest control provider, those are the folks who take care of ants and mice and rats and wasps and bees that like to make their home underneath the eaves, that they have to be EcoWise certified. And this is a very rigorous certification program that was put together by the National Resource Defense Council, EPA, local water quality, and pest professionals. And when you look at what goes into speccing out what a good quality structural pest control service provides, you would have pages and pages and pages of specs. But we just use this, and we have a great service. And it's reduced our cost for pest control service because they've been so effective that instead of having, I think originally we had 35 facilities every month that were getting regularly serviced, we've been able to reduce that by about 10 facilities because they told us what structural repairs we needed to make so we could just fix those so ants wouldn't get in, putting door sweeps in, caulking, that kind of thing. So we've reduced our service, and because there's now more competition for EcoWise, there's more companies that are EcoWise certified, our costs has also go down by 25%. So we're not using the same kind of toxic products that are associated, especially with ant control, that are toxic to kids, especially to people, to pets. But we've also reduced the cost as well. And this is a water quality issue as well. Almost all the creeks in California are listed as impaired by pesticides that are associated with ant control. So that's why we did this. So this is a good choice for a lot of reasons. And we did the same thing working with our parks and our golf staff on their contracts as well. For our park maintenance contract, we asked them to meet bay-friendly, to implement bay-friendly maintenance practices. A company right now can get certified as a bay-friendly maintenance company, but it's a new program. This is a program that originated out of Alameda County. And it sets, again, rigorous standards for what they do with all the trimmings and what they use to fertilize or to get rid of pests. And there's very rigorous standards for that. I mean, you can ask for bay-friendly, for a company to be bay-friendly certified, but there's not that many yet. So we said bay-friendly practices. That means you're not raking up all the leaves around a tree. It's actually good for the tree to have those leaves around the tree. We want to have OMRI certified organic fertilizers, which is another certification out there. We're also not using poison baits any longer for rats, mice, gophers, or ground squirrels. And that program has actually saved our golf department about $3,000 a year, and it's vastly more effective. And we're not worried about what they call secondary poisoning, which if we were to poison a ground squirrel, you know, the hawks that live in that area eat the ground squirrel, and then they often die because the bait causes internal bleeding. That's how it kills the animal, and that's how it would kill a hawk. So it's actually been hugely successful in our city to be implementing these programs from both a cost perspective and a value perspective. Custodial products, it was actually one of the things I first worked on with our custodial program, and this was before they had a lot of these eco logos that they have, either Green Seal or eco logo, and we just had a gentleman in the region, Tom, who would come in and assess everything for us and say, use this, don't use that, and we did that, and everything worked great. But nowadays it's so much easier if you just ask for the Green Seal certified, because there's so many products, and there's so many of them out there now that it's not so much a cost issue. They're all pretty comparable in cost. Copiers and printers, this was a way that we addressed what some of you had brought up about how to reduce the use of a commodity like paper. And so we, about 3 or 4 years ago, required that all of our copiers and our printers that are purchased be set to duplex automatically. And it sounds so simple, but it did take some doing. It really it did take some conversations to happen, but we did that. And I think just within the first 6 or 7 months, we saw a 15% reduction in paper, and that definitely is going to be adding up over time. The same thing with printing services. So we send out, some agencies are really large and they do their own in-site digital printing or offset printing. We nowadays send ours out, and so we are now requiring them to ask whoever, like if I call up and say, I want you to print this job for me, automatically, how much percent recycled content paper do you want to have? It's automatically going to be some vegetable soy-based ink. And when they send us our nice little utility flyers that we've printed on the recycled paper, please don't put a bunch of packaging in there. Don't wrap it with the plastic. Don't put the extra paper in there, you know, in a too big of a box. If you right size the box, we don't need to have that extra packaging. So we've been working on that with them. And another thing that we're actually trying to do with more and more businesses is ask that they be green business certified. Have you guys talked about that today yet? So this is a Bay Area region-wide program. It's facilitated through Association of Bay Area Governments, and businesses can get certified as a green business, and they meet standards for waste reduction, hazardous waste reduction, water and energy conservation, and a number of other factors. And so implementing green purchasing doesn't just stop at the borders of your agency. We can be promoting that by requiring our vendors to be green business certified as well. And if they're not green business certified, our current printer wasn't when we gave them the bid or gave them the contract, but we said, okay, if you get certified within a year, then we'll award that to you. So that's how we've been encouraging businesses to do that. There's a handy tool that you can use to see what the benefits are to your agency for reducing the paper use. We figured out our city manager's office, who converted all those huge stacks of council reports that they give out every week. They started using a digital format, and they saved 50 cases of paper a year. And I can't remember what the dollar amount shook out to be, but that's a lot. And we were able to plug that in and show them that they had contributed to the greenhouse gas reduction goals that our city has as part of that climate protection plan I told you about. But this is free, and I love this calculator because you put in what you're using, you put in what you do want to use, and it cranks out savings in terms of water, greenhouse gas emissions, trees. And people, and I like sharing that information with the departments who've done it, because I can't necessarily get my head around greenhouse gas emissions. It's like 4,000 metric tons, what is that? But I can see trees, I can see gallons of water, and that can make people feel good about the change that they've made. So we've talked a little bit about the green business programs. This is the computer thing that someone asked about. You know, what can you do to green your city's computer purchases? There's a standard called EPEAT, which I can never remember the name of, Electronic Product Environmental Assessment Tool. But again, it's a certification that allows someone like me. I'm not a computer expert. I'm not going to be able to write up specifications that could possibly cover everything that I should. But I know that they've got EPEAT bronze, silver, and gold, and we now specify EPEAT Gold for all of our computers. And what's nice about this certification is it's not just about the computer, it's not just about the monitor, it's about the packaging that it comes with. It's about what happens with that product at the end of its life. Is the company taking it back? Are they shipping it overseas to who knows what's going to happen to it? Are they dealing with it locally? So it covers a broad spectrum of environmental attributes that someone might care about. This is one that I'm spending most of my time on this year, and I invite any of you who are interested to join myself and Alicia, who is working with us on this. Again, I work in a water quality program, and one of the big water quality issues that we have are plastics that are showing up in our creeks in the bay. There's actually on the front page of today's Merck, there's a whole article about that. In county, I think it's actually Bay Area wide, is 50% of the litter found in creeks in the bay are plastics, all those little plastic bits. And we've been doing a number of those product bans, you know, polystyrene bans and plastic bag bans in the city. And okay, what can we do internally? And so we've been working with the city of San Jose, Sunnyvale, and just as of this week, Santa Monica is going to be joining us as well, to be working with our vendors to reduce the packaging that we get, targeting mostly this foam stuff, like these peanuts and what they call expanded plastic foam products. And you kind of get a picture of what this is about. And we'll be working with our vendors. We've already surveyed where we're getting most of the stuff from. We're going to be contacting them via a letter and saying, hey, we don't want to be getting this after such and such a date. But we're really, the message that we're sending is no expanded foam plastics, but really just have smart packaging. If you're sending me a pen that I've ordered, I don't need to get it in a box this big with a bunch of those plastic foam, those plastic air bubble pillows. I really don't need that. So we really want smart packaging, and we want them to be addressing how they're going to be doing that on the upfront part of the contract. Another thing that we're doing is looking at our terms and conditions, the stuff in the back of the contract, that the boilerplate that probably 1% of the population reads, but we're going to put it in there, and as part of that letter that we're sending out, we're sending a copy of these new terms and conditions, which include the environmental requirements that a company is obliged to follow if we're going to be working with them, and includes all the hazardous waste stuff. It includes, we don't want to have expanded foam products. If you send us something on a pallet, we want you to take that pallet back at no cost. And so we're putting in all those things in that boilerplate language, and we're reaching out to our vendors to make sure that they see that. And then I think iteratively over time, we'll keep putting that on the front end in our specs so people can see it. Because you can do all this stuff and it makes you feel good, but humans are humans, and we don't always read our boilerplate language. So that is a little slice of what we have done in Palo Alto. We have done some of the other things that Alicia has talked about, like with the LED lights and some of the other things. But these are the things that I think have been really valuable and helpful to our city, that are the easiest to implement. The resources, some of them you've heard about already, the Green Purchasing Institute. I actually just went on there today to get specs for the toner cartridges. And if you just Google any of these, you're going to get the URL that comes up for them. But also, we have such a great area to be working in. If you're interested in this, we have wonderful colleagues that I can just call up, in addition to Alicia, who's my consultant, but we have great colleagues at Alameda, San Francisco, San Jose, and that list is expanding as more and more people get involved. So if you are interested in becoming part of that community, probably the best places to start is through that ABAG program that Alicia mentioned. But also, if you just want to call me, and when we periodically have meetings, I'll be happy to include you in those as well.